Hi, everyone, and welcome to Into the VFX of Snowpiercer, Umbrella Academy, The Flight Attendant, and more. My name is Chris Villan, and I am thrilled to be here with you today to dive into the VFX work that goes into the making of these hit shows. We're going to be talking to creatives from FuseFX and Folks VFX. FuseFX is an award-winning visual effects studio providing visual effects services for episodic television, feature films, commercials, virtual, and VR productions. The company has 7 studio locations, the flagship office in Los Angeles, New York, Vancouver, BC, and Atlanta. Offices in Montreal, Toronto, and Bogota are serviced by Folks VFX. I'm so excited to talk to these talented creatives, so let's get started. First up, he is a VFX supervisor for the flight attendant over at FuseFX. Please welcome Greg Anderson.
Hi, everyone. Very happy to be here.
Next, he is the head of Studio LA at FuseFX and the global VP of production. Please welcome Johnny Fisk.
Hi, I'm Johnny Fisk. Glad to be here.
Next, she is a VFX supervisor for 911 Lonestar at FuseFX. Please welcome Brigitte Bourque.
Hello, thank you for having me today.
Next, he is the head of Studio BC and senior VFX supervisor at FuseFX. Having worked on shows like Snowpiercer, please welcome Jon Cowley.
Hi, everyone. Great to be here.
Last but not least, he is a VFX supervisor for the Umbrella Academy at Folks VFX. Please welcome Laurent Spillemaecker.
Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you.
All right, so to begin, can everyone briefly share how they got started in VFX and what led them to FuseFX and Folks VFX?
Hi, well, I started in film school back in Miami. I started in production. I started as a script supervisor, and then I moved to Los Angeles. I continued with that, and then I made my way into visual effects. It was something I was interested in, and that's how I ended up at eventually FuseFX after working on several films.
Johnny, how about you, sir?
Oh man, my story's checkered. So we'll leave the checkered past part out. But yeah, in general, born and raised in LA, I have a varied background. Actually started as an artist, so that was kind of where I started, and have really been managing and producing and doing art my entire career. Worked a little bit in animation as well, and as well as visual effects, and I've got a little bit of 3D background. But all of that led a few years ago to me coming here, and the rest is history, as they say.
Greg, let's jump to you.
Sure. I studied architecture and computer graphics at MIT, and I didn't really know about visual effects per se as a career, but a friend of a friend thought that it would be perfect for what I love doing. And so he helped me put together a reel that eventually landed me at Sony ImageWorks. And I ended up getting to Fuse, ironically, because Dave Altino, the founder of Fuse, and I shared an office during the X-Men 2 era. And that's where he and I first met almost 20 years ago. And so when it came time to start the New York office in 2014, he called me up and asked if I was interested in joining the company and starting the New York office. So took him up on it.
John, how about you?
For me, I was sitting in classes at the University of Toronto doing industrial engineering in my 3rd year. Jurassic Park came out, and there was a voice from my high school art teacher saying I should go into the arts, don't become an engineer, don't do something techie like that. So dropped out of engineering, went to Ontario College of Art and Design, Fine Arts, a couple of years of that, got to animation school, finished school on a Friday, started working on Jason X, Friday the 13th, Part 10 on a Monday. And that was my sort of deep dive intro into the wonderful world of visual effects. And feature films for most of my career. And there was an opportunity to take some of that experience and talent and years of wisdom and apply it to the TV landscape. Dave reached out to me, we struck a deal, and I've been running the Vancouver office ever since.
Laurent, how about yourself?
Well, like John, I was an engineer first in Paris many years ago. But I saw my best friend working in the visual effects industry in commercials, and it was having way too much fun for me. It was like, no, I can't. So I said, how can I work in your industry? And it basically started from the down of the ladder. and I became eventually a film artist, a compositor in the commercial industry. But then I was tired of making makeup and shampoo commercials, and I decided to go on feature film. So I worked in feature film for most of my career, and eventually I became a visual effects supervisor in Montreal, and joined Folks a few years ago.
So you all helm different but similar roles. For our viewers at home, can you describe your specific position? Johnny, let's start off with you. What does it mean to be the head of studio in Los Angeles and global VP of production at FuseFX?
All right. Well, I'm trying to think about what that means. I think head of studio is largely, I've been using the receptacle for all responsibilities. I think that's a good way of putting it, but largely I think, and I share this with Greg and John, we do have to make sure that we're running a facility, and we have not only people that work for us, but people that we work for. So a large part of that is just always balancing, what we need for a client, what we need for our artists and everybody to, make the perfect recipe. So, I guess chef of a studio, I guess that's what that is. And then the the global VP of production thing, I mean, that's largely kind of doing the whole thing on a larger scale, right? So it's, making sure that we are doing things consistently across, our facilities and making sure we're all getting along and everything's going kosher for everybody. That's basically what it is.
So you all make up the FuseFX and Folks VFX collective. Can you tell us a little bit about the collaboration process between you all? How does an average week go for your teams, and how has the pandemic changed all of this? Brigitte, let's start with you for this one.
Well, first of all, we're all online. I've actually embraced it. I enjoy it. I feel like we're able to collaborate more easily. For example, we work with the New York office, and it makes it feel like we're all in the same room now instead of on the other side of the country. You can always jump on a call. It's a lot easier to get your point across or understand what the artist is going through when you're looking at them, when you're face to face and you're sharing your screen. So I think it was a little awkward at first, but then it turned very natural and efficient after a while. And going back into how the pandemic has affected us, it's actually made collaborating with the client a little bit easier. I would say now they're more likely to jump on a call with you for 30 seconds to go over something rather than wait for later on. And I really, really enjoy having our meetings at home instead of having to drive an hour through Los Angeles traffic to get to their studio to have a meeting.
That's got to be a plus for sure.
It is. It's a huge plus. It's a huge plus.
Greg, how about yourself?
The pandemic has, forced us to kind of evolve out of necessity, and we've developed this way of working that, like Brigitte said, that has been pretty effective. So far, we've been able to land new work and kind of continue doing what we do. So we're making it work.
Sure. So in some respects, work-life balance has taken a plus and a minus depending on how you look at it. So I feel like we're always working, but it also, I was able to do things with my family interspersed amongst reviewing shots at the same time. Back in the day, that would have been me traveling in the office and sitting around for 6 or 8 hours waiting for some things to work their way through the system. And instead, that piece has been quite nice. And for inter-office dynamics, I think it's been really, really great because it's sort of torn down borders and any of the politics you may or may not get that all companies try to balance between different offices. We're all the same size on the same screen doing the same thing. And unless I know in advance where somebody is, we're all basically on the internet now.
So interesting that it's kind of, I don't want to say benefited you guys, but has almost worked in your favor a little bit.
There are certainly downsides to it, but we've also, we have a couple of shows now that have been bid, awarded, delivered all within the pandemic start to finish. And
wow.
There have been some successes in that for sure.
That's awesome. All right. So I'm going to jump right along here. On this same topic of collaboration, how involved are you all with production, writers, directors, and so on? And what does the VFX process look like before and after shooting? Greg, let's go to you and talk a little bit about the Flight Attendant.
This show was a bit of a challenge because we started off pre-pandemic, and our general role as VFX supervisors. I supervised it with another one of the VFX supes from my crew, John Miller, and he was doing the sort of production side component, and then I supervised a lot of the post. But part of that process is obviously working with the showrunners and the directors, particularly with this show, where a lot of the visual effects revolved around sort of surreal or hyperreal imagery that were basically delusions of the main character. And so a lot of discussions were had about, you know, what does that really mean? What does it look like? What does it mean for the viewer? What's going to be the viewer's experience versus, you know, Cassie, the lead character's experience? And lots of sort of discussions both in production, and then once the pandemic hit and we shut down all, you know, post and then resumed. And during that time period, I think the writers and showrunners, as well as us, were able to kind of take a moment and really kind of explore how we wanted to develop the visual, you know, those visual effects. And that, I think that gap really actually kind of helped the creative process, because we ended up designing some things in post that weren't originally discussed, but it definitely helped the final product in the end. And so several of the effects were designed well after shooting was done. Some of the infinite mirror stuff or infinite hallways, these sorts of things were definitely sort of designed after the fact. And I think, you know, the pandemic allowed us to kind of approach it with fresh eyes once we restarted.
Nice. Laurent, how about you? How involved are you with production, writers, directors, and everyone else?
Most of the case, and in many cases, I will say, we work only in the post process once it's shoot. But right now, I feel, and probably also because of COVID, they had a really long pause that they will take, and they will take that moment as an opportunity to discuss further with us and do more prep work, which is great, to involve us more and in a preparation before the shooting resumes, to, hey, how could we shoot this scene the better way to help the visual effects and tell the story differently? What about this option? Oh, we can help in this area maybe. And by having more discussions around the VFX, I think it helped greatly. And when the shoot resumed after this period, realized that the working together is so much more efficient in the end. Our work is easier. They spend less time on set. You know, the pandemic restrictions is a big thing that we cannot ignore on set. It's slowing down their work a lot. It's making things much more complicated. So I think things plan much better. It really helps in the end, and that, you know, I think that sets expectation for the future shows that we're be doing.
Gotcha. Nice. All right, so we're going to dive into more specific projects now. Jon, I want to talk to you about Snowpiercer. Your team had to essentially create an entire world surrounding this massive train, aptly titled the Snowpiercer. How is your team able to achieve this?
Sometimes you get a chance to build a world. Sometimes the worlds are already built for you. Sometimes it's just, you know, drop something in. The most challenging shows and the most rewarding ones are the ones where you actually get to build the world. We worked on Brave New World. Apropos, we had to design a world for that. Snowpiercer, we had to design a world for that. It's great. In the early days when a series is getting off the ground, though, it's also one of the most challenging phases, because the showrunners are also trying to figure out what that world looks like, and they're busy shooting at the same time. So their focus sometimes is in, you know, the moment and what they're trying to get in the camera, not what you're trying to build for down the line. So the best way of solving that is concept art. We lean really heavily on concept team and trying to, in an efficient way, draw out this world, paint out this world for people. We bring in a lot of reference. Surprise, surprise, just because something is real doesn't mean it looks great on a television show. So there's either a hyper-real version of it or a physics faked version of something that just tells the story better. So Snowpiercer, case in point, this is our second season on it. Last year, we spent just a bunch of time bringing in ice reference, photo collaging, mapping these things out. We even got into sort of pre-viz speed tests. What does this massive train look like? Does it need to travel 100 kilometers an hour or 200 kilometers an hour? You know, what feels great? How should the snow kind of smash off the front of this thing? What should the light look like? What should the cinematography look like? The nice thing is once those rules are established, then it becomes copy, paste, repeat to a degree through the rest of the shows. But hands down, it's the most challenging and the most fun part, trying to figure out those rules and how to do those as efficiently as possible.
I love that. So interesting. So Fox's 911 Lonestar is also such a VFX heavy show with wildfires, car accidents, even volcanoes. Brigitte, as the VFX supervisor for the series, what is it like bringing these catastrophic events to life?
It's a fun show. They do keep us on our toes because every script that comes out, we find out what we're in for. Also, this show is a very tight turnaround, so we have to jump in immediately as soon as we get wind of what's going to happen. And we usually only find out right before pretty close to when they start shooting. So then the discussions start. What do we want to see? How do we want to see it? And then we start talking to the different departments. I'll get with my counterparts and the head, the stunt coordinator, the special effects coordinator, supervisor, and even the set designer, and talk to them about what they're able to do, what they're not able to do, how we can help them to achieve what they need safely and in the time frame that they have. So it really is a lot of collaborating with the client, and even with the director, constantly ask him, so what do you envision here? And a good example of that was the wildfire that we did. They were shooting all over the hillside, and we were constantly talking about, well, what exactly do you think we'll be seeing here? And it was mostly just, well, lots of fire. So when you get into post, you have all this kind of an empty canvas, and you have to start mocking it up, giving it to them, and then going back and forth. But that episode was a lot of fun because I did feel like we had a lot of control of what the final look was going to be. We were able to make a lot of creative decisions. And the great thing too is that we really got to combine a lot of our departments. It was heavy with matte painting, heavy with 2D effects, and heavy, reasonably heavy with 3D, because like I said, it is a very tight turnaround. So when you only have like a week or two to do an entire episode like that, you have to be very quick.
A lot of work, a lot of hard
work. It
work.
is a lot of work. It is hard. But it was really nice, and everybody liked it. I think it was really a nice looking episode.
Nice. So there are times where a project requires you to create real life events. Laurent, as the VFX supervisor on the Umbrella Academy, what was your approach to recreating Dallas 1963 and the JFK assassination for the series?
Well, that was this is definitely one of the best moments of my career in VFX because this is such a iconic moment of the American history. And we were lucky to have quite some time to develop that, like what Brigitte said on our show. So we had time to go through archives, tons of archives, reference photos, and this had a really close discussion with the overall show VFX supervisor from Netflix and the showrunner, Mr. Blackman, and to analyze what we need to recreate and what we will keep as is, because the place, of course, the Daily Plaza has changed quite a lot since 1963. Some buildings are still there, but they've changed. And so we want to be accurate in a way, but we all still want to keep that vibe from the Umbrella Academy, which is always on the funny side. You know, it's always, you know, a creative way of drawing a line and position between the serious historic events and the funny storytelling of the Umbrella Academy. But a lot of our work is based on actual footage, historical archives, and recreating every single building in CG, crowds, vehicles, different, key people that were on the grassy knoll at this moment. Dig out through all the conspiracy theories and find out what we want to represent or not. And that was a really, really fun process.
That's super cool. Keeping on this Umbrella Academy theme, Laurent, we saw a lot of characters jumping from one timeline to another through portals this season. What was Folks VFX's role with these portals?
That's another one fun aspect of that show. It's we almost have basically carte blanche. We can do whatever we want and propose. They're really, really open to proposition, and this is great. This is not something I was used to in feature film before, where they have a really strong hard department, and basically this is what you have to match and do it. For the Umbrella Academy, we had a lot of flexibility and opportunity to propose our look. So we, like Jon said, for Snowpiercer, this is when you go to concept, you propose things, you do mock-ups, and how do you want it to look? And then we do multiple versions, quick iterations, and then we refine and refine and refine until we have the desired look that works with the rhythm. We have you want to be unique. You don't want to, you don't want to be the same effect that you've seen over and over in a different show or a movie. So you have to be open to multiple iterations. So that's why you have to design a workflow that quickly iterates the versions and able to drop things and start from scratch again. And, you have to be really open. It's a really interesting creative process.
Love it. Love it. I love these answers. Greg, can you give us an insight into the making of the Flight Attendant? How did you approach the hyper-realistic VFX designs for the show?
Well, just to echo Laurent and Jon, we did a lot of concept design work. Oftentimes, you'll see an effect sort of described on the page of the script, and depending on your background or your own sort of personal sort of creative biases, whoever reads that is going to sort of see that differently. And so a lot of our job was to do a lot of concept work to describe these moments that are being that were being written, and get build consensus, and then kind of begin the process of iterating to evolve the idea as well. And so one particular moment involved Cassie, the lead character, sees giant rabbits, and we had created normal sized rabbits in other scenes, and it ties to a story from her childhood. It's from childhood trauma that involved a rabbit. And so when they wanted to sort of include a 8-foot tall rabbit in a very confined space, it was pretty complicated, because the audience knows that this isn't real, but it still had to be rendered in a way that was believable, and particularly believable in the context of the show. So we played a lot with different kinds of sizes and colorations and animation to help evoke the sort of surprise that she's feeling by seeing this rabbit, as well as creating something that was believable and ridiculous in the course of the audience sort of seeing these delusions that she's having. So across all the episodes, every episode there was some kind of moment where she's seeing something that she shouldn't be seeing, because she's having these sort of episodes. And so with each one, we sort of approached it that same way.
Interesting. I love it. I understand that sometimes VFX teams have the chance to dip into other territories, such as cinematography and lighting design, in order to achieve the effect and make these digital worlds look real. Jon, since Snowpiercer takes place within a train roaming through a post-apocalyptic world, how does your team get to control the shot, especially when the shot requires a look at life outside the train?
Yeah, I'd argue the word dip is an understatement. There's a sort of fabled story in our industry when Life of Pi won the Academy Award for Best Cinematography. And I think every single visual effects artist that worked on the show kind of like had a small little moment because the visual effects artists weren't necessarily acknowledged in that sort of process. Not to discount what the directors of photography bring to the process, but some of these shots, some of these shows, really that world is only getting built in visual effects, and there's very little getting established up front other than maybe a concept or two from their art department. So taking something like Snowpiercer, I'm sure our DP takes a look at things from time to time and weighs in, but really it's the client-side visual effects supervisor, the internal visual effects supervisor, and we're hands down lighting the shots and setting the looks and the worlds, the tones. It's we get to play filmmaker in those particular shots end to end, right? We have a slug that says, you know, the train comes around the corner. That's all we see in our edit, and we build that thing out soup to nuts. We block it out. We do the train as a character. We act the speed of the train. We manage the camera. We set the lights. We create the amount of snow and atmosphere there. We play every single department all at the same time. So yeah, we far more than dip. Sometimes it's a head first cannonball.
All the kudos to you guys. All the kudos. Obviously, life has changed drastically over the past year. We're still in a pandemic, but with the new year comes new beginnings and a sense of hope. Brigitte was able to give us insight on how it affected the team internally, but in terms of the industry as a whole, Johnny, how has the industry navigated these conditions and changed since this past year, and where do you think it's headed?
Well, I mean, look, I think there was a moment where, everything kind of, stopped. That being said, technically, we never stopped. So I don't think anybody on this call, we all kept going, right? So I think to a large degree, there was a moment of force where we all had to go, okay, how do we do this all remotely? How do we continue to work? And I think across the industry, top to bottom, I think everybody's kind of done that, right? Everybody's gone, okay, this is a change, but we're still going to keep going, right? I think change is important. I think it's a big part of actual evolution. I don't think, until there's an environmental change, we don't evolve. So I'm a big proponent of this is just another step in what happens in our industry. And there's some outcome from it. Obviously, with what's going on with our folks on set, and that took a minute. That definitely took a minute to get back and shooting, and making sure that everybody's safe and working properly there. But there's another large part of it, and we all kind of got there at the beginning, which is just a different way of communicating. And I think that level of communication has really kind of flattened it for all of us. For all of our partners, whether it be people who are doing shots or people who are really like looking at everything, and it's really kind of, I think, to me, pushed us into the next step, I think, of being able to do this in terms of collaboration. I think that's really a big thing. I think all of us in a room, that's easy. All of us separate, that's harder. But I think in general, and I don't speak for Fuse and folks, all of us in visual effects, I think have kind of dealt with this last year. And right now, I've got to be honest, we're all on the other side of it. We're all working. We're all working. We're very busy. There's a lot going on. And I actually see, right now for us, I see this as a boon again. I see this as kind of a, there was a stop down and a start back up in a way, but now that we're kind of back up, I think we're busier than ever. And I think there's just more conversations about lots of different things, virtual production, obviously Unreal's a whole thing right now. There's a lot going on in the industry. And I like that. I like that there's, fire again, and there's interest in new stuff, right? So, yeah.
There's hope. We love it.
The interesting challenge for us will be, we went from a normal to the new normal, and then sometime in the near future, there'll be the new normal, and we'll have to adjust to that again. So I don't think this kind of evolution could have happened sort of baby steps. It had to be this sort of just big jump. But now we're going to be baby stepping back into an in-office presence and a at-home presence, and what that's going to look like. So it's going to be more challenging for us to figure out how to I don't think we're unwinding what we've done, but how to evolve what we've done to the next phase.
I love it. So I'm going to jump back into group questions. What do you love most about your job?
Many things. For me, it's just fun. We do entertainment, and I try, even in tough times, even when we're in rush, I want to remind myself and the artist and my team that what we're doing is entertainment in the end. And it shows when we're having fun. And I keep on saying that, and it might sound a little cliche, but I think in the end, it shows in the images that we're crafting if we're having fun or not. We love the shows that we're working on. We're interested in the stories, in the storytelling, in making things better, making things funny, realistic, depending on the type of show. And we're using many, many new technology. We have to be always on top of what's new, the new technology, the new software, the new hardware, the new stuff to incorporate into our making. So we use the latest things to achieve the next level.
I would say I enjoy the collaboration, not just with the client, but also with our teams in-house. I feel a lot of times it's when you approach it like it's a big puzzle with a lot of pieces, and you have to figure out how to make it all fit together. And that like Laurent was saying, it has to do with time, budget. There's always less and less time that they want you to achieve these sort of things. You're balancing the resources, the client expectations, and it is very satisfying to be able to solve problems for them, come up with looks, things that our show is very story driven, to come up with ways to drive their story forward in a way that, first of all, doesn't break the bank for them, and the things that we can achieve in the time that we have. So it is fine, and they are very appreciative of it. They recognize that we're a good steward of their show. So I really enjoy that part of it.
I mean, I think for me, because I wear two hats as a VFX soup and as a head of studio, I think the common denominator of both is really being able to lead and manage a team for a collective goal. And so I enjoy the leadership aspects of that, and really being able to kind of strategize on the best way to whether it's achieving a particular look or style for a project, or coming up with a unique solution internally for how do we get this project done. I think for me, I like being able to switch back and forth. And so that's been really like one of the more enjoyable parts.
I mean, I think we have a lot in common here. I mean, for me, it's the people, I'm a people person. So I love that aspect, that collaboration. I think, I'm always inspired and trying to inspire others, in terms of, we all work so hard in this industry, and it's always so fantastic to be surrounded with like-minded people and people that really care and really enjoy this. I think that's the best part of working in this industry is, you get to a certain point, everybody wants to be here, everybody wants to do this. And, their challenges. I mean, I always look at it like there's a million little victories a day, and there's, a million little wars happening at all times. But I love those little victories. I love those moments where it's like, cool, we got a solution, move on. There's another one. I know there's another one somewhere. So, but it's the people and all, it's that partnership with everybody, I mean, it's on, again, as Greg went with it, it's like the people that work within our facilities, the people that we work together with. And also, I mean, I just love working with our clients.
Probably echoing a lot of what everyone else said, but I think it's balancing complexity. So the art, the science, and the people, right? So all three of those things have to kind of come into balance. When I dropped out of engineering, I thought I'd never use my engineering skills again. And I think that problem solving is sort of basically one of those skills I lean into the most. So we move more information around than a bank does. Like there's more complexity going on that may or may not be transparent to the end viewer. Some of these shots, we have hundreds of iterations that we've done, and the amount of people that have to come together for this whole dance to work, it's pretty intricate. So for me, seeing all of these cogs, machines, pieces, people all sort of meshing together to kind of spit out the stuff that we spit out, that's pretty cool. And I think we take it for granted sometimes just how complex and intricate and tenuous the whole exercise is sometimes.
Yeah.
And how well we pull it off.
You guys are incredible problem solvers. I think you guys would be a really good group of people to do like an escape room with. Super random thought of the day. But I would also
be disappointed.
Oh man, I'm sure you'd be great. I'd love to know if you all have a favorite visual effect that you've done. And Jon, would you have a favorite visual effect?
I'm gonna have one that's sort of a fuse one. I'm gonna have one that's a pre-fuse one that kind of got my career sort of rocking along. I had a chance to work on District 9, which is a wonderful, cool, iconic sort of show. And we pulled off and it was in short order to a close-up headshot of one of these aliens getting interrogated. It became part of the pre-launch trailer campaigns on that.
I remember that shot actually.
It was super cool. We pulled it off in short order, and it just set this tone and this expectation for the entire thing. So sometimes it's not just about the shot itself; it's about what it means to the bigger picture. So that was great. It was all kind of grainy, and there was this 2 or 3 shots back and forth in this interrogation, and I was like, yeah, it set this wonderful tone for that particular project. And then the fact that the show was a success was wonderful, because trust me, I've worked hard on shows that you've never heard of. And then internally, I'm going to bring it back to Snowpiercer again, which for me is a personal success. It was the end shot on last season. There's this big sort of pullback piece. And again, it's more because what it means, not actually the final images. So for us, this was a show that we built up momentum on the show. We didn't start as the primary vendor. And the way that we delivered the work, the way that we built our client relationships, by the end of the show, we took on a much, 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 much larger role. We kind of got the chance to play hero, and that's rolling into our sort of second season. So for me, that shot is sort of the apex of all the hard work and all the things we talked about, that complexity coming together to create something that, talking about the pandemic, Snowpiercer season 2 kept most of my team employed through the pandemic. So I could argue that shot, if it wasn't a success, the final shot of season 1, we may have not had the opportunity we had on season 2, and to kind of keep this great team together. So those are my answers.
I love that. Johnny, how about yourself?
Cool. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm going to mostly fuse this one, but I mean, I think in general, the stuff that we have done and we continue to do on Orville is pretty incredible. That's a big giant show, and I can't talk about what's coming up, but pretty incredible. So I'll leave it there and back out of that one. So we'll do that. Actually, one of the things that we've done this year, I mean, speaking to pandemic and kind of keeping in that box, one of the things that we've done that I really loved this year that we did with Vancouver as well as we did Boys in the Band on Netflix. And I actually think the work we did in there, you'd never know we did any of it, but it's really some incredible work. I love the stuff that we did there. We did the period stuff that we do across the board in all locations. New York's done some incredible stuff as well. I love that stuff. I just love that whole, like, you're taking yourself into a different place and it's, beautiful and seamless. So yeah, those are some of my favorites.
As a viewer and actor, I always think the most impressive VFX shots are like, I had no idea that was a VFX shot. Yeah. So I love that there's so many hidden ones in there. Greg, let's jump to you.
I think probably one of the coolest things we've done in the New York office is it was in season 3 of Mr. Robot, and we did a 42-minute continuous camera move with no edits. Which the show, it was always conceived that way. So they ran all the advertisements at the top of the show. And then for the next 42 minutes, the camera never cut. And so we were nominated for an Emmy for that shot. And in reality, it was there were probably about 38 different cuts in there. So our job was to stitch all of those seamlessly and go from a crane move to a steady cam to a camera on a jib arm to another crane move again. And so that it was essential to telling the story of that particular episode. And it really, I think you couldn't do the episode without the work that we did as part of the story. And so I always love doing stuff like that. I think it really shows that visual effects can be more than just, superheroes or like fantastical things.
Sure.
And really contribute to the story.
Ooh, good stuff. Laurent, how about you? Favorite VFX shot you've done?
Yeah, we talked about the GFK event in the Umbrella Academy. One, it's rather a quick shot, but I loved it. It's in the same season 2 of the Umbrella Academy. There is a shot of the archive room in the office, and this is a tribute to one of the best matte painting in the world from Indiana Jones and the Lost Ark. So it's like a reveal of the whole room, and there are hundreds of thousands of files everywhere, and that's a tribute to the whole archive, secret archive, where they dropped the Ark at the end of the movie. So there was like a personal favorite shot. And outside of Folks, I'd say my best and favorite experience was doing that iconic shot of Blade Runner 2049, where we see the wide view of the city from the Coca-Cola to the Atari sign. And
yes,
there was something really very special for me, and my connection with the original movie, and I'm really grateful to have been able to work on that.
good stuff. Brigitte, how about you?
Well, I would say I really enjoyed working on the wildfire episode in Lonestar. It was very satisfying because it all came together so well, the different elements. I do like it because it was such a good combination of the practical shooting, the practical effects, and everything that we brought to it. That I really am pretty proud of that one. And also we did another episode in 911, the other show, where we did an earthquake. It took something that was a big natural disaster, and it was fun. And I think it looked really good. It was fun to work on that. And if pre-Fuse, I worked on a lot of shows that I really enjoyed. I worked on The Mummy Returns, and I really enjoyed working on that. I was happy with the shots. I'm very proud of the shots in that. Because of the collaboration. I was up at ILM. The people were excellent, and to work with such a talented pool of people was very special. So I did get to work on a couple of shows up there. So I tend to remember shows mostly for the experience as well as the shots that I did. So that was a really good period of time.
You guys' resumes are insane. I'm like, I grew up on your guys' work. I'm shook. So this is the final question, and it's going to be directed to everyone. I think it's a really important question. What advice would you give to young people looking to get their start in the visual effects industry? And for this one, I'm going to start with Greg.
I think the first thing I always think of in terms of like most important thing to know to get into this field is to learn your craft, and then really, study lighting, study photography, of course, study visual effects and animation. But I've found that, when I came into the business, there wasn't a degree for visual effects. And so like I studied architecture, which in the end, I think really helped me because it helped me sort of see the world in a different way from a design standpoint. And so all of those sort of areas have kind of helped me become a better visual effects artist and supervisor.
I agree with what Greg said, and I think the interesting thing about that is there's so many different ways to get into this industry. A lot of people that we've come up with, they come from different backgrounds. We have engineers here. I've known people that come from the production side. They're actors. Maybe you might find one of your best artists, started off as a voiceover person or something like that. So there's really no one way of getting into this field. I kind of meandered my way into it, but I was glad I did. It was something that I was looking for. It was something that fit better than the other production work that I was doing. So it's a little complicated. I think we all got into this industry in very different ways than you would now. So it's a little hard to give advice of how to get into it. But I think you just have to have an open mind and just try out different things and see what works for you, what feels comfortable. And don't be afraid to change your mind. Maybe you decide 3D is not what you want to do. You want to do something else. Maybe you find that you're an editor or vice versa.
I mean, we're all kind of going the same direction, aren't we? The thing for me is always be learning. We use it a lot. That's part of our, one of the core values here. But, I think that's for me how I'm here. For me, every challenge I went headfirst into instead of running away from. And I've always tried to basically put all of myself into everything I've always done. So I think I have the most, again, when I said checkered earlier, I have definitely the most varied career. But, you know, largely that's also because I've had lots of opportunities. And Brigitte said, you know, there's a lot of opportunities in there. The key is that there's never, you know, you never stop learning. You know, I think Greg got there where there's so many elements of what we're doing that we're continuing, you know, you can continue to educate and learn from. And, you know, my other thing is that there's no one you can't learn from too. So, you know, I think that's really important. But, you know, in terms of getting into it, I think it's just, you know, as long as I don't think anybody I've ever met that's not passionate and hardworking and really wants to get into it, I've never not seen them succeed in this. I think that's really, you know, all it comes down to. I think all of us have just, you know, if you really want to do this, there's always a path for you, you know, and I think there's plenty of paths in this industry for, you know, people that are interested.
Like when we started, there are not really like schools to, I want to work in VFX, apply here. Now there are many good schools. But there are also so many type of work that you can do. There are very technical work. There are some really artistic jobs in the industry. You have no idea. Sometimes we hire people that are, they only do math and physics because we do particle simulations and fluid. And we have digital groomers that really like groom characters and CG people. And we have concept artists that are really like 100% artistic. They literally paint all day. And we have coders that rig virtual creatures that don't exist in the real world. It's compositors have a little more link with the plate, so a little more, you know, focus on the photography and the lighting, how to blend with the reality of what's being shot. I think. And this is what I love about this this job is that so many people from diverse background, diverse cultures as well. Anyone, you know, all the talents are welcome as long as you have the will and the energy to learn, because it's a constant learning process. Technologies evolve so fast. If you want to learn, if you're a hard worker, there's no reason for you to not succeed in this.
You guys are making me want to get into VFX. What?
Come back. We need compositors. Come on.
The technology exists now, and the education exists now that you can be 12 years old and learning how to do what we do. You don't have to wait until you graduate and head off to a sort of post-secondary education. So that stuff is available, and people are taking advantage of it, and they're getting a wonderful head start on their careers. I think the second thing is it's really thinking of the first 4 years in the industry as just like you're still in school. And it's all about opportunities and making sure that you are setting yourself up. How to put it? Don't chase the money on day one or day two, chase the opportunity. Get to work with the best people you can, get to work on the best shows that you can. I'm not saying work for free. That's not my point, but build your strategy around partnering and surrounding yourself with some of the best that you can. You know, 4 years later into it, you know, then kind of go for the bank. But just go for the opportunity right now. Surround yourself with talented people and you will raise your own bar.
Wow. You guys. Okay, I'm going to do a VFX class tonight, I think. So that looks like all the time we have today. Thank you to our panelists, Greg, Johnny, Brigitte, Laurent, and Jon, for being here with us today to really dive into the intricacies of VFX. Also, thank you to Impact24 PR and WonderCon for putting this panel together, and to all of you for watching. See you all next time. Bye, guys.